Uh,
Hi.
How you doing, Angela?
Happy holidays, I guess I should say.
Yes, right?
Here we go.
We are in the thick of it, aren't we?
Oh, boy, are we.
Man, the packages are coming fast and furious. This is the time
My
of year.
credit card is wondering what's happening.
I hate this time of year because I'm in charge of box disposal, right? and the wrapping paper and all that stuff. And it is like a nightmare for me to be able to, like, how am I going to get this all in? I'm out there, jumping on top of the garbage can, smashing things
Playing
down.
Tetris with it.
And my family's like, whatever, Dad. They don't even care.
It's
just,
fine.
Yeah, but it's actually that week. This whole month really, but the week
Yeah.
after Christmas is the worst.
I know. It's horrible.
Yeah.
I get to throw a birthday in as well. My daughter turns 4 on the 12th.
Lucky?
I know. So we get all
Oh,
those
man.
packages as well. But,
Yeah. Well,
I've been trying to shop in store a lot more. I found a toy store like a mile from my house. It's just owned by a local family. They have, it's the same prices as Target. Like, why am I going to big box stores when I could be supporting a local business?
Good for you.
I've been trying, but it is challenging not to just hit buy now on Amazon.
It's really, we're kind of programmed that way now, aren't we?
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Well, welcome to A Place of Possibility. I'm Richard Del Monte.
I'm Angela Wright.
And we are happy to have you here with us for this holiday edition of The Place of Possibility. And what are we talking about today,
Speaking
boss?
of the holidays, we're talking about debt.
Oh, yeah. They're perfect time. What a great timing.
I know, right?
We did that on purpose. Yeah, that's good.
Debt and credit today, and how it can be a wonderful financial tool or maybe the worst thing that ever happened to you.
Kind of like opioids, right?
Yeah, sort of. It could be a tool or it could be harmful.
That's right.
So yeah, we're going to talk about the proper uses, and there are many. We'll also talk about when debt is not helpful to you and what you should avoid. And we'll wrap up talking about credit. People always ask us, how do I improve my credit? What if I have too much debt? What do I do about it? How do I repair it? And we'll talk a little bit about the arcane world of credit ratings and how exactly that is calculated.
People can actually obsess about credit kind of a little bit, can't they? Sort of.
Oh, yeah. They do.
A little bit too much, right? Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Yes. It's like you're mad, like you're walking around with this number above your head or something. But
I lost 4 points yesterday. What is that about?
Well, here in our society, where credit is necessary, and you're going to see that here in furthering yourself financially a lot of the time. So it is kind of important.
It is, but I mean, if you get above like whatever the number is, I don't know, 680 or something, it doesn't matter if you're 750 or 754.
Well, we live in an optimization society.
Oh, yeah. And too much information sometimes is not a good thing.
Agreed.
So let's start out our conversation with a topic about when debt is actually a good thing and when it's a bad thing. Mm-hmm. First of all, we don't agree. You agree with me on this, right?
We agree.
We agree. We don't agree with Dave Ramsey. We collectively don't agree. The Dave Ramseys of the world who preach, in their soapbox that debt is a bad thing. One size fits all. If you have debt, you should get out of it as soon as possible. We do not agree with that, and we're going to explain why. Sometimes it is a terrible idea, of course, as we all know. But often it's really great. So the first case in point for when debt is a good thing is using it to buy a house or a rental investment property if it's structured properly. So, for example, right now the interest rates on a 30-year fixed mortgage is between 5% and 6%. Inflation is running plus 8%, 8+%. So if you're paying 5%, but inflation is running 8%, your real return, the cost of the debt is actually minus 3%.
Wait, this is some mathematical gymnastics.
I know. It sounds too arcane. I know. So if I'm next year, something that costs $100 today, next year, if I pay $100, it's probably going to cost $108 to buy it, right? If inflation is so if I'm getting something today worth $100,000 and I pay back next year the loan with cheaper dollars, I'm actually saving money because the cost is going to be lower for me.
Yep.
So if I'm only paying 5% to borrow money and inflation is 8%, the real cost is negative. In real terms. Because I'm paying back with cheaper dollars. So we just explained that. So if the Fed is successful at reducing inflation, which we hope they are, back down to 2%, which is their target, then, you'll have an opportunity to refinance more than likely if you buy something right now, like a house at a lower rate. But even if that doesn't happen, I know the young folks, they think that, these rates right now are outrageous, 5 or 6%, but historically, like over my lifetime, back when dinosaurs were roaming the earth, 5 to 6% was considered a pretty decent deal, right? I mean,
my first mortgage was 7.5%.
Yeah.
In 2006, 6.
Okay.
So.
And did you feel like you were getting robbed?
Oh, no, I thought it was a screaming deal.
How
I
it
was
was,
buying a
right?
house.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
I mean, I got one of those, balloon arm, 10% down,
Oh,
things that caused the financial crisis.
yeah, right.
I should not have been in that house. I
little
was
things, yeah.
very house poor, but it all worked out. And it
Yeah.
wasn't.
Yeah.
And
And
we
my
didn't think
first
twice
mortgage,
about the interest rate.
my first mortgage, I hate to say it because it'll date me, was 16%. And so,
This is 1980.
Yeah, exactly. 1980. Yeah. And so, the thing about it, 5 or 6%, it's reasonable.
Yeah.
Right. But we have to, those low rate we had, the low rates we had back in, a year or two ago, they're probably not going to come back.
Yeah.
But let's say you bought a house for all cash, which is what Dave Ramsey would have you do. Save your money until you get $1 million to buy a house in California. Good luck with that. But if the house made a 5% annual appreciation, you would make 5%, right? Mm-hmm. That's what you're making on your house. So if you bought a house for $1 million and you keep it for a year and it goes up 5%, you made $50,000 on the house. But if instead you financed the house, let's say you put down 5%, $50,000, and you finance $950,000. Okay. So the interest rate at 5% over in the first year, the interest that you would pay is $47,000. The other little bit is principal. So if you paid $47,000, but your house went up by $50,000, then you made a net of 3%, right?
Makes sense.
You only put in $50,000 for your down payment. So you made $3,000 on $50,000. So that's a return of about 6%. So you're actually making a higher return in that situation than if you put all cash.
Mm-hmm.
You're only making 5% if it goes up that way. So this leverage, especially as it compounds, it goes on over multiple years, it really pays off. So let's say that you go fast forward 5 years. Now you've paid a total of $228,000 of interest over 5 years on your 5% mortgage, but the house has gone up by $276,000. for a $48,000 net increase on your $50,000. So you almost doubled your money in 5 years using a loan.
Yep.
I'm sorry, but that's,
that's amazing.
That's
and you
amazing
can't do
thing.
that without the debt.
Right. The debt makes it make sense. Now fast forward another 5 years. So now we're in 10 years. You paid $434,000 of interest on your mortgage over that period of time, but the house is now worth $629,000 more than you paid for it. So you have almost a $200,000 net gain on your original $50,000. So you've quadrupled your money in 10 years with your $50,000. I'm sorry, but that's a heck of a return.
Yeah.
I'm not going to apologize for that. And that's why, we say, Dave Ramsey, sorry. So yeah.
Yeah.
Your turn.
So I want to talk about what happens. So Richard is giving you an example of a primary residence that you're living in, right? So in his example, of course, you also had a place to live for all of that time while you were growing your money. People often forget when they're talking about investing in real estate, when it comes to their primary residence, they act like it's an asset. But if you dispose of the asset, i.e. sell it, where are you living? Now you've got some other expense, right? So now I want to talk about investment properties because now this gets really interesting. Yep. So, it's more interesting because your tenants are paying the mortgage off for you. You're not coming out of pocket for all of that mortgage interest. Right. So let's say that more numbers coming, everybody, prepare yourselves. $1 million home bought for cash, right? So same scenario, except now it's a rental. Right. So you're receiving $50,000 a year in rental payments.
If you're getting 5%, right? 5%.
Yeah, let's assume we're getting the 5% return. And in $1 million home, that sounds about reasonable for what somebody might pay in rent here in the Bay Area, let's say. So in 10 years, times $50,000, you've earned $500,000 in rents. Now let's take increases out for now. But the property would have appreciated by $629,000. And so the math there tells us that you've earned 112% on your initial investment. That's
$1 million
in 10 years. Yeah. That's wonderful.
Not bad.
Okay. But what if you had financed this purchase instead and used debt? I wonder what's going to happen. So for rentals, you have to put down 25%. So that's $250,000 you've come out of pocket now instead of the full $1 million. Your tenants paid you that same $500,000 in rent, and $417,000 of that went to mortgage interest, assuming a 6% interest rate.
Which you have to pay a higher rate
You do.
than
Yeah.
a regular ONOC.
Okay, here comes a bunch of numbers. So you netted 83,000. Your home went up that same 629,000. So you've got a total profit now of 712,000 plus your original investment of 250,000. So your return now has changed from 112% to 185%.
By borrowing money?
So yes.
Heresy.
So you've
Oh my
basically
gosh.
tripled your money. And this is what I'm talking about, right? People who are wise in how this works and not afraid to properly structure their debt will get ahead in our economy,
Right.
and our society.
Right.
Plus, but wait, there's more.
Yeah.
Remember, you had $1 million in cash and you didn't spend it all. So you didn't just buy one home, you bought 4 homes because you put $250 down on each home. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now you've just made this 185%.
Yeah. So for your $1 million, instead of owning one house, you own 4.
Yep.
That's how you make wealth. Yep. That's how the smart people do it. So these kinds of opportunities are exactly what we're talking about when we say debt can make all the difference in the world. And sorry, Dave Ramsey, you can go pound sand because you're not right about this. Using leverage can be, I don't care. That's fine. I'll have this battle, in public, no problem. But you do need to watch the interest rate you're borrowing at because it can hurt. And we generally see that if the interest rate that you're paying on the mortgage that you're for financing these properties is more than 2% per year higher than the appreciation rate of the house. So like, let's say if you're paying 7% interest and the house is only appreciating at 5%, it gets to be a little dicey, especially in the early years of owning it, because you might end up having to come out of pocket even for the mortgage payments and not have any net rent income, which is not so good. But in the long run, even then it still works out. So it's just it really matters about your time frame. So yeah,
that's houses, but there are other ways to use good debt.
There's more.
So we thought we would make a list for you: good debt versus bad debt. People always ask me, is a car loan good or bad? Like, most people know a mortgage is good debt, right? Yep. I think
the lawyer answer is it depends.
right.
Yeah, right.
From the lawyer over here.
Not yet.
Okay, so real property purchased using mortgage debt. Possibly lines of credit used to improve an asset like your property. Student loan debt for 2 reasons.
I want to see how you're going to do this now. The politically correct way you're going to say this.
Well, so here's the thing, right? Student loan debt can increase like your life rate of return if you use it to acquire more earnings in the future, right? You go get a master's degree and now you can get a higher paying job.
Right.
In that way, it's good debt. Student loan debt is also good debt in that it doesn't really negatively impact your credit score, which we'll talk about in a minute, like a Nordstrom credit card would do.
Yeah.
That said, if you're going back to school, like for general fulfillment or for fun, I would not put this in the category of good debt. It's in the category of life expenditures because you're using it for fun and fulfillment. So that's a depends answer.
Right.
Business property. So financing, capital, things for your business, a printer that you're now going to use to print 3D trash keys that you sell or what have you.
Office expenses, whatever.
Capital.
Building up your office, right.
Okay. Car loans are a tricky one. And I would say, the disclaimer on car loans is, look, you need a car, right? And so if your loan is 5% or less, let's say, right? You're entering into a good deal because you could invest other money at a higher interest rate, right? So keeping that debt at less than 5% makes sense. If you're getting a car loan at 25%, bad debt.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, great.
For sure. Yeah.
And then I'll say credit cards that give you miles or cash back, so long as you're paying them off every month, that is good debt. It's free money.
Yeah.
I waited way too long to get in on this game. I was raised in this only spend what you have, Dave Ramsey way. I use an ATM card for everything. I kept a check register, so I knew how much I know, right?
How old are you?
Okay, calm down. So, and then, my partner was like, you're an idiot. Like, we could be putting all of this on a credit card. We could get at least 2% cash back. And then we just pay the card off every month. And I've gotten thousands of dollars in cash back through the years. So
we've actually paid for our kids' colleges with those things over the years, and vacations and stuff, just the 2% builds up.
Yeah. If you have a little kid, we had a Visa card that was through Fidelity, and all the cash back went into a Fidelity 529 account. And so a lot of what we paid for the business, that cash back went to the kids' college.
Yep.
You're welcome.
Good deal. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I appreciate that.
Okay. And then we always talk about OPM, other people's money.
OPM. I love that.
So that's when you are, you're borrowing at a rate lower than what you can earn if you turn around and invest that money in something. You're like your own bank, basically. So you want to do bad debt?
Sure. So bad debt is really any debt that you are using for consumption or lifestyle purposes. So that would be something like credit cards, putting things on a HELOC that are just like fun, going on vacation.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Vacation daddy is not in the room right now.
Right. Bad debt.
But you're getting you can't pay your mortgage, but you're getting your nails done or things like that.
Because what ends up happening often is that people will, on a HELOC, they'll say, well, I'll pay it back. And then they don't. And then they refinance it and put it into a new first. And now they're paying for 30 years for a vacation they had, 25 years ago. Ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense. The next form of bad debt is debt with super high interest rates, credit cards. A lot of times I see people with credit cards, 30% interest.
Yeah. That's pretty common.
Yeah. I mean, it's insanity, student loan debt for a degree with low earning power. Again, fulfillment we'll set that aside.
Yeah.
So those are kind of the big ones.
Yeah.
The times when you don't want to use debt to fund those things.
Okay. So we've talked about debt, how to use it, especially in mortgages and real estate.
Right.
What is good debt? What is bad debt? We're going to take a moment now for a brand new segment.
Yay. Moments
of Possibility. We've been really looking forward to sharing this with you. People always ask us, what are other people doing? Or like, do you have other clients in this situation? So we thought we would take a couple minutes of each show to share with you kind of like a little case study of something that happened throughout the course of the week here and what a client is doing about it. And also to help you understand the sort of help that you can get from an investment advisor, because it's not just managing your portfolio or just handing you a 50-page financial plan. So for the inaugural Moment of Possibility, Richard's going to tell you about our client, Carrie. And of course, names have been changed.
Yeah. So this was, I was talking to Carrie's husband, and the husband said, Carrie, we just got married recently. Carrie has this rental house that she still owns, and it's just kind of there. It's being rented, and she doesn't feel like she's really getting much of a return on it, and so she wants to sell it and do something else with it. So I asked some questions like, what's Carrie making on this mortgage and on this house? And so she was getting a return of like 3 to 4% rents net, rental income, which it doesn't seem like very much, if you're looking at that. But then I asked what kind of interest rate they had on the mortgage. She had on the mortgage, and it was like below 3%. She also had a very low property tax basis from owning it from 20 years ago. And then finally, she said that the houses were going up 5% a year. So when I added it all up and did the calcs for them, quick, dirty, back of the napkin, kind of a calc that we do on the fly.
That's your favorite.
Yeah, man, give me a little HP 12C and I'm good to go, right?
Nobody pause on this, but there's a bunch of notes on this
There's
page.
Always notes everywhere. There's margins like Mad Magazine, But I calculated that they were making, using leverage and and all that, she was making 15% return per year on that investment. And I just said, so if you sell this house, if your wife sells this house, she's gonna have to pay capital gains tax, and then you have to take the money and put it. What are you gonna do? Put it in treasury bills?
Where are you gonna get 15%?
You're not gonna get 15% tax preferred because you get depreciation expenses and stuff. And so it just created a whole new point of view for Carrie that, I had no idea I was doing so well with this investment.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, what they were fixated on was the fact that they had a mortgage on the property.
Yeah.
And it was like, we have this debt hanging over our heads.
Dave Ramsey.
Yes, it's programming.
There's the thing. It's like you get this program. Oh, we shouldn't have this. It's bad. No, you're borrowing money. This was, I think she had a rate of like 2.5% interest.
Amazing.
And inflation's running at 8%. Hello, that's a minus 5.5% rate. So anyway, yeah. So that was a good example of something that happened in the last month or so with a client that where they just it always makes sense to get a second opinion when you're thinking about doing something big like that, a big move. Talk to somebody who has financial experience, and just get another opinion. You may still decide to do it, but it's always worth it.
Good point.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks for listening to our first moment of possibility. We'll get back to our regular programming. So we're going to switch gears a little bit now, and we're going to talk about credit ratings, credit scores, how to build it, how to keep it, So first of all, what makes good credit? People ask me this all the time. How can I increase my credit score? And how is it even calculated? It's really convoluted.
Yeah, it's a big secret. It's a black box. You're not allowed to know. If we tell you, we'll have to kill you.
But it's not. It is out there if you have Google. So there are.
It's out there.
Well, okay. I will say you cannot find the formula for how they arrived at my credit score.
Yeah, okay.
However, there are 5 factors that generally make up your score, and they're weighted in the same way everywhere. So it's payment history, the overall amount of debt you owe, how long you've been using credit, what do you have new or recent credit, and the types of credit you're using. So remember when I said like student loans are better than a Nordstrom card? That does matter. Each factor is weighted differently in your overall score. Payment history and amounts owed are 65% of your score. So if you can only focus on 1 or 2 things, put your focus there.
Yeah.
This is probably its own show, I think, but here are a couple of ways that you can build your credit score that you might not already know. There's a lot of information out there about this. So here are some, maybe there are secrets. I don't know. So 1.
Lesser known facts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Live in one place for 2 years. Moving frequently, it looks like inconsistency to the credit agencies, and they will drop your score for that. You can start young people like your kids or grandkids on secured credit cards, or really anyone that has problems with running up debt. This is a way you can build credit, but there's a max, and it works kind of like an ATM card. So you get the secured credit card, like at Chase Bank, for example, you load it up with $500, and then you put your kid on as a signer. The kid can spend the $500, but they can't go over that. But this is a Visa card. So when the child turns 18 and this card switches into their name, all of that credit history is already there. It's awesome.
Good.
Okay, pay all of your bills on time, not just your credit card bills and your mortgage, your cell phone, your utilities, the water. They will often they have lenient policies, like you can go 60, 90, 180 days in some cases. Like PG&E will give you some leeway, but eventually they will report to the credit bureaus if you don't pay your bills. Since available credit is a factor on your score, pay off your credit cards, but don't close them. This is super important.
Very.
Yeah. So they're looking at how much debt is available to you at any given time. This is called your saturation rate. If you're using up all of your credit, that doesn't look good, right? So pay down that Best Buy card, but keep it open. If you have problems with spending, 2 quick tips. 1, you can get a new credit card, like a new card number right away, and put the card away. And like, don't program it into your browser. Don't remember it. Now you can't use the card like on the fly because you don't remember the card number. Or you could also cut them up or give them to somebody if you're out physically using them.
So they can use it.
Oh, give it to the person who's always giving you crap about being an overspender.
Like your spouse or your partner or something.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And then the last tip is, if you miss a payment, like especially on a credit card, and you don't do it frequently, you can call and ask them to remove it from your record. Take away that late payment fee, take away that interest payment, and even, just make it look like I didn't have a late payment. Look, I've already submitted online. I just forgot because it was a Sunday or whatever.
Yeah.
And you can often miss a couple before they'll report you, but I don't recommend that.
That's fascinating.
Obviously.
I really didn't know that. Interestingly, I learned last week, anecdotally from a trainer that I talked to, that if you pay off your credit card balance every single month, like we're all taught to do, it's not always the best idea. The thing, as far as making a higher credit score, you can actually get your credit score increased somewhat by letting your balance on 1 or 2 accounts go over for a month and just not paying it off. That way, it seems like the gist of it is, if the credit card company is making a little money from you, they give you a higher, in forms of interest, they give you a little higher credit score. Don't ask me why, but that's something that they have discovered that actually does work. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and let's see. Yeah. So Angela, how long do bad credit events stay on your credit?
Yep. So 7 years, but from the date of last activity. So most people know the 7-year thing.
Yeah.
But from the date of last activity is a really important asterisk on that, because here's an interesting example. If you had an unpaid bill from 4 years ago, let's say the creditor found you and you're like, you want to pay this off. Well, you've got 3 years until that drops off your record. But if you go and make the payment now, you have a fresh activity. The 7-year counter starts over. So sometimes you might need to weigh whether or not you're going to make a payment and have an activity on an outstanding debt. Super interesting. And I would caution you, like, don't go not paying your bills like, oh, it's just going to go off in 7 years, right. But I think a lot of times they can't collect from you. And this will go off.
Or they just won't because it's too much trouble.
Yes. And I think that's a really good point. We'll just, credit counseling is probably a whole other show, but if you have creditors calling you, do not give them any information about yourself, because they are required to have certain bits of info about you before they can collect on you, like your address and your social security number. And when they buy debt, like medical debt is often sold off in these huge chunks, and they just get a massive spreadsheet of all the debts. And often it'll have missing information, like just a name and a phone number. So they'll call you up and say, Miss Wright, I need you to verify your social security number before we can proceed. What they're doing is getting you to give them the info they need to collect on you. Never give them any information when they call. Hang up and call somebody that you trust before you start having conversations with creditors.
And interestingly, if you're in that cycle where you are dealing with, creditors and you're late on your payments, just tell them you want to put you on their do not contact list. They cannot call you like at work and home and harass you if you tell them to stop, which is really important.
Yeah.
They can write to you, but they can't call you. So, and also there's a new law that omits medical debt. So like if you forgot to pay your doctor, they always send those to credit bureaus, really, or credit collectors really soon. They used to be able to put that on your credit report after 6 months. Now they can't put it on there unless you don't pay it for a year. And when you do pay it, they have to take it off. That was another thing they never used to do. So just leave it on there and will you take it off? No, I forgot. I didn't even know. It doesn't matter. But now that's not a thing anymore. Also, these debt collectors, they are sharks.
Oh, yeah.
One time I went in probably 15 years ago to help a client who was getting, harassed by these creditors. And so I went into the credit collection agency to meet with the owner, and I was in the lobby waiting for the guy, and there was a big fish tank full of piranhas swimming around. Actual piranhas. And that was kind of how he was telling people, hey, don't mess with me because I'm gonna eat you for lunch. That's how they actually are. So they seem really nice, but they're not nice at all. So Angela, what about credit repair companies? How do you know if they're going to help you or if you're going to get yourself in more hot water and just spend a bunch of money?
Oh my gosh. If you Google,
it's a big one, right?
Oh, if you Google credit consolidation, debt counseling, any of this, you'll get thousands of hits. And some of them are legitimate nonprofit agencies that are helping people get out of debt.
Yep.
Others are for-profit businesses. Yep. So when you're looking for help in this area, you're looking for .org type websites, and you're looking for nonprofits, and you need to ask that question. It's really important. How do you get paid? What is credit repair? It's different from bankruptcy in that they will, this company will take your debt, consolidate it, and make you a payment plan that you can afford based on your income, expenses, and the amount of debt that you have. And keep in mind now, if you do this, the creditors won't come after you because the consolidation company has paid them off, but they're going to close all of those accounts for you. And so remember when I said you want to keep your accounts open, you lose that option with this. It also does go on your credit report that you've done this. And so if you think you're going 7 years again, there we are. If you're going to be needing credit in 7 years, it might not be a good option. I have reviewed a few of these, in real numbers for clients through the years. And honestly, it often makes more sense for people to use a snowball payment plan instead of going to these companies. That just means that you're going to take all of your credit cards and you're going to pay them off either like lowest balance first or highest interest rate first. And we have a calculator you can use if you want. Please write to us if you would like it. I'll send it to you. But oftentimes you end up paying so much less back. You don't damage your credit. You get to keep all of the accounts open. So I would say the only time I would use credit counseling is when you truly cannot make your monthly bills, and you're going to become unhoused if you don't do something soon. Like you can't even make the minimum payments.
Yeah,
things
right.
like that.
Right. We could probably put that credit thing in our show notes, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And so keep in mind that a bankruptcy, if you go bankrupt because of your card debt, that stays on your credit report for 10 years, not just 7.
Yep.
So it's even longer. So we talked about how to use debt, how to have a good score, and now how do we protect our good credit rating?
Oh.
So this is a big one, right? So the first thing you should do is you're allowed to get a free annual credit report once a year, and you just go to, I think it's free annual credit report.
It's everywhere. You can get them from everywhere now. If you're paying for a credit report, stop.
Don't pay for it. Yeah.
Mint.com.
Right.
Credit Karma is free.
Okay, good. Good to know. Yeah. And so you can look and see what's on your record, and you can see if there's any late payments on there or any other derogatory credit. And so you can actually challenge all of those things. Say, this is not true. I didn't do this. And you can just do it online. And then the credit agency is required to go out and validate and make sure that that's accurate or not. Sometimes they don't get the responses back from the creditors, or for whatever. And if they don't get a response back within a certain reasonable amount of time, they have to delete it from your report. So that's an easy, no-brainer way to clean your credit without paying anybody or going through any rigmarole. It's just, you can do it like in 5 minutes. A credit freeze, which you can put with the 3 major credit bureaus that you implement, will stop anybody else from getting at your credit and checking your credit report or opening new credit. A fraud alert is another.
That's so on that. Yeah. Remember, if you do that, you cannot go out and get credit.
Good point.
You have to unfreeze it first.
Good point.
So I would only do that if your identity has been stolen. People are actively trying to get credit in your name. Otherwise, you're just making problems for yourself.
Really. Yeah, that's a good point. I've never put a credit freeze on it. It hasn't been a problem. Fraud alerts are another one that you can require a phone call every time your credit is applied for. These, Angela, you recommend.
I like this one. Yeah. It'll make getting your next car loan take longer, but it will stop every single credit request.
Yeah.
You'll always
just
get
an extra little step, right? You're not sitting there sleeping while someone's in another country is using your credit or something. Yes. Monitor your transactions. So this is something that, I haven't been that good at actually, because you can use something called mint.com, or you can get phone alerts from your credit cards application, and you can look at the transactions, make sure you know what they all are.
Oh yeah.
I find things like from 6 months ago. What was this? I don't remember buying it. By then it's too late.
Well, you do it like the way I do this to keep on top of it is like my Monday morning, I'll take 5 minutes and I'll just categorize the transactions from the last week. I take a quick peek at what's going on in my life. It literally only takes 5 minutes once you get used to doing it. And, and then I stay on top of it. But I also, if you have a cell phone in your pocket at all times, I have the American Express app, and every time there's a charge, I get a notification from American Express. Now, that might annoy some people. My phone goes off all day long anyway, so I don't care, and I can see in real time. This has also helped me get rid of so many subscriptions.
I was going to talk about subscriptions.
Yes.
Those are like the dreaded, they just keep sucking money
What
out
is
of
noggin?
Yeah.
What am I paying? What is this? Apparently my kids wanted to watch Blaze and the Monster Machines one day. So I started paying $7.99 a month to Amazon for some special channel so they could watch this one. What is it? Anyway.
Yeah. I wanted to use the Wi-Fi on the airplane when we went to Europe last summer.
Subscribe to the
so I signed up for this thing. Like it ended up, I was getting charged $59 a month for this freaking thing that that I don't even use. So
it's another reason to monitor your transactions.
Yeah, for sure. Right. So are there any other steps, Angela, that you would recommend that people take to protect their credit?
I think the last one is the agencies like LifeLock. They are actually really good and they're worth the money, especially if you're not somebody who will look at your transactions, or maybe you're not like Norton Antivirus actually bought this company LifeLock. So now it comes with credit monitoring, alerts, scores, antivirus software on your computer. Wow. So if you're not great with your computer,
do they come and clean your house too?
I wish. You tend to get hacked, The other really cool thing is that there are built-in remedies if you do lose your identity or have some credit stolen. So I think the base plan, they'll reimburse you up to like $25,000. They will also hire lawyers and go to bat with you. There is a max. It's high. I want to say it's like $1 million they'll spend on you to get your money back. And this is for like, it's either $9.99 or $14.99, something. I didn't look it up for the show. But we have a lot of clients using this. And I have had clients call, they've gotten hacked like via their computer. So I think the Norton antivirus software is also really, really helpful.
Yeah. So you can get rid of your Noggin account and get this instead. You'll be breaking even.
Same price.
So we hope that has been a helpful overview for you on all things related to credit and debt. We appreciate you joining us.
Yeah. And if you have any questions, comments, or show requests, please feel free to send us a message at info@aplaceofpossibility.com. If you want to schedule a meeting, there is a link to our calendars in the show notes. We offer 30-minute consultations for free. So please take advantage of that. And we are offering a new ebook.
It's great.
It's called The Investment Answer. Look, he can't even contain himself.
It's fabulous. Actually.
It's, the science behind how we manage investment portfolios. It's an easy read, I promise. Anybody can get it. So please reach out if you would like any of those resources from us.
That's great. And we thank you so much for joining us today. Happy holidays, everybody. And remember, you're invested and so are we. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks.